Hi, good afternoon, good evening. We're back with Collected Fables, James Thurber. Ivory, apes, and people. A band of ambitious apes in Africa once called upon a herd of elephants with a business proposition. "We can sell your tusks to people for a fortune in peanuts and oranges," said the leader of the apes. "Tusks are tucks to you and us, but to people they are merchandise, billiard balls and piano keys and other things that people buy and sell." The elephant said they would think it over. "Be here tomorrow at this time, and we will swing the deal," said the leader of the apes, and the apes went away to call on some people who were hunting for merchandise in the region. "It's the very best ivory," the leader of the apes told the leader of the people. 100 elephants, 200 tusks, all yours for oranges and peanuts." "That's enough ivory for a small ivory tower," said the leader of the people. "Or 400 billiard balls and 1,000 piano keys. I will cable my agent to ship your nuts and oranges and to sell the billiard balls and piano keys. The business of business is business, and the heart of the matter is speed." "We will close the deal," said the leader of the apes. "Where is the merchandise now?" inquired the leader of the people. "It's eating or mating, but it will be at the appointed place at the appointed hour," replied the chief ape. But it wasn't. The elephants had thought it over and reconsidered, and they forgot to show up the following day. The elephants are good at forgetting when forgetting is good. There was a great to-do in the marts of world trade. When the deal fell through, and everybody except the elephants got into the litigation that followed, the Better Business Bureau, the Monkey Business Bureau, the Interspecies Commerce Commission, the federal courts, the National Association of Merchandisers, the African Bureau of Investigation, the International Association of the Advancement of Animals, and the American Legion, opinions were handed down, rules were promulgated, subpoenas were issued, injunctions were granted and denied, the objections were sustained and overruled. The Patriotic League of American Women Against Supervision took an active part until it was denounced as subversive by a man who later withdrew his accusation and made a fortune on the sale of 2 books, "I Made My Bed" and "I Lie in My Teeth." The elephants kept their ivory, and nobody got any billiard balls or piano keys or a single nut or an orange. Moral: men of all degrees should form this prudent habit: never serve a rabbit stew before you catch the rabbit. So the later half of that one was a little rough to read. Oliver and the Other Ostriches. An austere ostrich of awesome authority was lecturing younger ostriches one day on the superiority of their species to other species. "We were known to the Romans, rather, the Romans were known to us," he said. "They called us avis struthio, and we called them Romans. The Greeks called us Struthian, which means truthful one, or, if it doesn't, it should. We are the biggest birds, and therefore the best." All his listeners cried, "Hear, hear," except a thoughtful one named Oliver. "We can't fly backwards like the hummingbird," he said aloud. "The hummingbird is losing ground," said the old ostrich. "We are going places. We are moving forward." "Hear, hear," cried all the other ostriches, except Oliver. "We lay the biggest eggs, and therefore the best eggs. continued the old lecturer. "The robin's eggs are prettier," said Oliver. "Robin's eggs produce nothing but robins," said the old ostrich. "Robins are hornbound, worm addicts." "Hear, hear!" cried all the other ostriches, except Oliver. "We get along on 4 toes, whereas man needs 10, the elderly instructor reminded his class. "But man can fly sitting down, and we can't fly at all," commented Oliver. The old ostrich glared at him severely, first with one eye and then the other. "Man is flying too fast for a world that is round," he said. "Soon he will catch up with himself in a great rear-end collision, and man will never know that what hit man from behind was man." "Hear, hear!" cried all the other ostriches, except Oliver. "We can make ourselves invisible in time of peril by striking our heads in the sand," ranted the lecturer. "Nobody else can do that." "How do we know we can't be seen if we can't see?" demanded Oliver. "Sophistry!" cried the old ostrich, and all the other ostriches, except Oliver, cried, "Sophistry!" nor knowing what it meant. Just then, the master and the class heard a strange alarming sound, a sound like thunder growing close and growing closer. It was not the thunder or weather, though, but the thunder of a vast herd of rogue elephants in full stampede, frightened by nothing, fleeing nowhere. The old ostrich and all the other ostriches except Oliver quickly struck their heads in the sand. Oliver took refuge behind a large nearby rock until the storm of beasts had passed. And when he came out, he beheld a sea of sand and bones and feathers, all that was left of the old teacher and his disciples. Just to be sure, however, Oliver called the roll, but there was no answer until he came to his own name. "Oliver," he said. "Here, here," said Oliver. And that was the only sound there was on the desert except for a faint final rumble of thunder on the horizon. Moral: Thou shalt not build thy house, nor yet thy faith upon the sand. The shore and the sea. A single excited lemming started the exodus, crying "Fire!" and running toward the sea. He may have seen the sun rise through the trees, or walked from a fiery nightmare, or struck his head against a stone, producing stars. Whereas it was, he ran, and as he ran, he was joined by others, a mother lemming and her young, a night watch lemming on his way to bed, and assorted revelers and early risers. "The world is coming to an end," they shouted, and as the hurrying hundreds turned into thousands, the reasons for their headlong flight increased by leaps and bounds and hops and skips and jumps. "The devil has come in a red chariot," cried an elderly male. "The sun is his torch. The world is on fire." "It's a pleasure jaunt," squeaked an elderly female. "A what?" she was asked. "A treasure hunt," cried a wild-eyed male who had been up all night. "Full many a gem of pure rays serene, the dark unfathomed caves of ocean bear." "It's a bear," shouted his daughter. "Go it!" And there were those among the fleeing thousands who shouted, "Goats" and "ghosts," until there were almost as many different alarms as there were fugitives. One male lemming who had lived alone for many years refused to be drawn into the stampede that swept past his cave like a flood. He saw no flames in the forest, and no devil or bear or goat or ghost. He had long ago decided, since he was a serious scholar, that the caves of ocean bear no gems, but only soggy glub and great gobs of mucky gump. And so he watched the other lemmings leap into the sand and disappear beneath the waves, some crying, "We are saved," and some crying, "We are lost." The scholarly lemming shook his head sorrowfully, tore up what he had written through the years about his species, started his studies all over again. Moral: all men should strive to learn before they die what they are running from, into, and why. Ooh, uncollected fables next. We'll end it there then. Sweet dreams.